5 minutes, I'm live talking about who you're starting, who you're streaming, who you're flexing for fantasy football week 11. This looks like a good week. We've been treated to some very good weeks of football action. I am, for the first time in many starter stream programs, I'm fully up to speed on the news. I know who's playing. I know Achane's playing. He's good to go. Am I starting him? Probably not. Actually, probably not. I don't think he's going to be the main back. I think it's going to be Raheem Mostert. So if you're eager to start Achane, you can just wait a week. You can wait a week and see what his workload is going to be in week one. I know that on just a handful of touches and carries, he's been putting up huge numbers. I get it. But like when you look at the total touch count, week in, week out, the guy's getting 10 carries, a couple targets, and he's breaking off like two 50-yard runs in the process, putting up hundreds and hundreds of yards on not that many touches. That was before the injury. That was before he was rushed back from IR. I didn't expect to see him until week 12. So until I see RB1 level touches like on his team, I'm not going to run out and start him over other productive running backs. It's just not what I'm going to do. No, I'm not doing it. He's a very exciting player. I get it. You want to play him. I get it. But what he was producing before the injury was not sustainable. And so this is the caution sometimes is the better part of valor, even though I get it. It's a home game against the Raiders. This just looks so good. It looks too good to be true. And I know there's going to be some starter stream decisions to be made, some start-sit decisions this week, some questions on this show. Who should I start? I think the funniest one is going to be, do I start Achane or Saquon Barkley? Right? So that's going to be a fun one. And that one's not necessarily clear, right? Who are you going to start there? Barkley, right? So that's a perfect one. Everyone's tired of Barkley. He's not putting up any numbers, right? Even though he did in last week, gave you 66 yards with a catch, no touchdowns. 90 yards, no touchdowns, with 3 catches the week before that. Week before that against the Jets, 128 yards and 3 catches. So I get it, but look at the yards per carry. He's been over 5 the last 2 weeks for Barkley. The quarterback is a huge problem, right? DeVito is not necessarily the best option, and I know it's like, oh, well, he's going to get more touches. He's going to get more carries. He only had 13 carries. But he did have like 36 attempts against the Jets. Understood. But when I look at a game total, and I look at the game total of this Giants game, 38.5, and they look at the implied points, it's like nothing. So it's a road game, right? So this is the decision point, right? I was trying to think of a name brand running back who's going to be getting all the touches. I mean, he's just had an incredible workload the last 3 weeks. If you average it out, he's all they have left on offense. It makes sense. If it were me, I would be skewing all the touches to Barkley too. Right? So are you chasing the touches, the empty calorie touches, versus the high value touches, the explosive touches, the high upside touches is what you're getting with Achane. So it's possible that the reason why this is an intellectual exercise that I think is interesting is you have Barkley could 3x the touches of Achane this week, and yet it's a conversation. I know there are people out there that have both guys, and it's not obvious. Do I take the guy that's going to get all the touches, or do I take the guy that has the explosive ability? I'm saying it's Barkley all the way. Like, we have Barkley projected for 17 fantasy points. What is that? Right? He's going to get 3+ receptions for at least, let's say, 30 to 40 yards. Okay, so probably in the range of 5 catches, 50 yards. That's 10 fantasy points right there. And then he gets 70 rushing yards. That's 17 fantasy points with no touchdowns. So it's very straightforward for Saquon Barkley, high floor play this week, to just give you 17 fantasy points just on pure volume. He's going to get so many carries. You know he's going to get 70 yards, and he's probably going to go 5 catches for 50 yards as a receiver because they don't have any other receivers of consequence. There's no other playmakers on this team. So who's more likely to score a touchdown? Achane, right? All else equal, Achane more likely to score a touchdown because he can score a touchdown from 40 yards out. But even though this is the worst possible situation where it's a road game in the division against a team whose front seven is better than their secondary, and it's a low game total, and your team has no implied points whatsoever. I mean, the exact implied points, if I'm not mistaken, like the Vegas believes that the Giants are only going to score 15 points. 15 implied points is nothing. That's embarrassing. It's crazy. Washington is a 9-point favorite. And yet, the play is Barkley over Achane. And I just want to, that was my guess. Like, when you're sitting down to do a starter stream show, what's a possible question, a start-sit question you're going to get? And the one I was able to come up with that I wanted to have an answer right away for, which was Barkley versus Achane. If you're shooting for upside, Barkley doesn't have it because of his quarterback. Right? Typically, it's the receiver that you're discounting because, okay, man, I wanted to play Wan'Dale Robinson. You didn't, but let's just say you did, right? But, it's DeVito, so I'm not doing it. Right? Where actually, whoever the number one receiver is going to get targets no matter who the quarterback is. That's the Tom Savage corollary. So I'd actually be less worried about if the Giants had a great, like Devontae Adams. Like Devontae Adams has no quarterback. You know he's going to get fed. Right? Devontae Adams is going to have a bounce back week this week. I can promise you that. And I know the Jets are trying to trade for him. I can promise you bounce back week for Devontae Adams. Any given week, you know that Devontae Adams is going to get the targets. You know that DeAndre Hopkins is going to get the targets. Even in these lower volume offenses, the number one is going to get the targets. I'm actually more worried about the running back in these situations because a guy like DeVito, a guy like Aiden O'Connell, they cannot sustain drives. They can't put these running backs in positions to score touchdowns. That's the big issue with the Saquon Barkley. And when you look at our rankings, you say, hey, Saquon Barkley, he's projected to have a top 10 week. Yeah, he is. But the ceiling, the upside, we have an upside finder as well. So in our DFS Dominator package, we have an upside finder. And then you notice, when you just look at upside, Barkley's upside is not in the top 10, but his median projection well in the top 10. And why does Barkley lack upside? He's getting all the touches. Yeah, but he's getting all the touches in a bad game environment, and he is unlikely, all else equal, to score a touchdown. It's a 15 points implied, and most of the touches will be low-calorie touches. And the defense is also going to be focused on him, so it's less likely that he can break off a long run than, say, a Devon Achane. I actually like Barkley this week because of the volume, but not because, the team with the bad quarterback or the quarterback downgrade, they're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to run the game through the running back. That's a reason to like the running backs more. Once in a while, you still hear analysts say, because the passing game is so weak, you should play the running back because the running back's all they have left. Where actually, when I think about it, I think, well, no, because the offense is so degraded, actually the running back is not going to be in a position to score touchdowns. So it's actually worse, right? Yes, the 5 extra touches between the 20s is not nearly as valuable as a running back getting fewer touches, but a lot of them are on the 3-yard line. Or a lot of them are in a passing game that's spread out where there's other weapons on the field and it can't be the focus of the defense. All right, questions rolling in. Raheem must start. See, Toronto Dave is correct. See, the other issue with this Devon Achane activation that is going to cause confusion is it could potentially lead someone to benching Raheem Mostert. I give most of you credit that you wouldn't do that. But remember, before Achane went down, Mostert was the starter, has been the starter all year, and was getting more touches. Now, sometimes Achane was scoring more fantasy points because he was breaking off 50-yard runs like crazy. But it's still the Raheem Mostert show. So I want to be clear. You're not benching Raheem Mostert. And looking at our projections right now, we have Mostert and Achane as top 24 options this week. Think about it. Our projections are saying 26 fantasy points for Dolphins running backs between just those two guys, plus some points for Jeff Wilson, right? But the upside is most of them could go to Achane. Most of them could go to Mostert. So either one of these guys could easily blast past 20 fantasy points. So you're not benching Mostert. You're not benching Achane. Ty Chandler, Rico Dowdle, Royce Freeman, Kenny what? Yeah, so Snoopy007, he's in a similar situation with a lot of people. So Rico Dowdle popped up on the injury report on Saturday. Okay, and again, to start the show, I mentioned that I actually went and read all the injury reports and I read all the news. I can't believe I did that. I am well prepared. I'm only doing these starter stream shows occasionally now because I'm so busy and I'm such a big deal that when I do them, I am now holding myself to a higher standard. And I'm saying I'm actually going to check the news. I'm actually going to check the injury reports. And it's not going to be one of these hilarious things where I tell you to start a guy who's out like I used to. Okay? So Dowdle picking up that injury, and it's going to keep being the Pollard show. We're not going to see Dowdle like we did last week. I'm worried whenever a guy pops up with an injury report on Saturday, I get terrified. Alexander Mattison is just shocking the world, coming back from a concussion the very next week. I was shocked. I said, put your chips in if you want. If you need running back help, go get Ty Chandler. This is the week for Ty Chandler. No way Mattison plays. And then Mattison plays. And he's active and he's good to go. But I'm playing Ty Chandler. What happens if it's fake? What happens if he's actually not 100% and he takes one hit and Mattison goes to the sideline and is like, yeah, actually, my head is ringing. I shouldn't have been playing. That's very much possible. So you have the Broncos giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. You have the Vikings offense, still no Justin Jefferson. They're going to have to, more targets to running backs in that case. KJ Osborne's going to play. So I like KJ Osborne this week. When you're making streaming wide receiver decisions, KJ Osborne, I think that's a great option. But when you're looking at Chandler, Dowdle, Freeman, Gainwell is a direct backup. Freeman is in a close to 50-50 touch distribution with Darrell Henderson. And this is a home game against Seattle. So to me, Snoopy, the decision comes down to Chandler versus Freeman. The median projection is higher on Freeman. So if you feel like you're the favorite, let's say you're the favorite by, let's call it 8 projected fantasy points. Let's say that the fantasy projection is like 130 to 122. You're projected to win. You feel very comfortable. I would just go Freeman, right? But if you feel like upside would help you in any way in a flex position or an RB2 position, if it's an even projection or you're down, I would go Chandler because there's much more upside with Chandler. He's faster than Freeman. He's going to be more active in the passing game, and there is that possibility that Madison doesn't last the whole game, or that the coaches just said, "Hey, you know what, Madison, you're healthy and we get it, but you've been bad all year, and we're just going to go with a guy that offers us more boom potential in any given touch." Baker Mayfield or Matthew Stafford? Matthew Stafford's got the Seahawks at home, so the answer is Stafford. I think that's pretty easy. That's pretty simple. So I don't think I'll ask the chat. I mean, does anyone in the chat disagree with that? Is anyone tempted to go Baker? Baker's at the 49ers, and the game total is 42, but the 49ers are 13.5-point favorites. So just looking at implied points, there's less than oh my God. Like, I think, is this right? I think Vegas is projecting the Buccaneers to score fewer points than the Giants. That's how much they respect the 49ers defense. Baker, there's a risk that just the whole offense gets totally shut down by the 49ers, so I'm not taking that risk. Whereas Stafford's at home against the Seahawks, let's not overthink that. Says, the Podfather on Starter Stream, getting in the squeeze from the shareholders to participate. Getting the squeeze from the shareholders to participate. I don't know what that means. So how it works is when the season starts, our fearless social media leader, Jason Allwine, puts out the bat signal, says, "Hey, who wants to do starter streams? What creators in our team want to do starter streams?" And we all raise our hands. Well, hey, I'm doing starter streams. Like what you don't know is I also do starter streams on TikTok, and I do starter streams on Instagram. So you may not have seen me on YouTube, but I'm around doing starter streams every few weeks. So it's just that my YouTube schedule is like once a month, if that. Right, so I put myself down, man. I always tell everybody at the company, with the exception of people writing code that I don't know how to write, other than that, I'm with you. I'm in the shit. I'm doing what you do. Nothing is above me. I'm in no way above the fray for anything. Whatever it is, if it's the most simple data entry thing, I'm with you. I'm doing it. I'm updating birthdays on player pages. I'm getting in the database and I'm updating these things. I'm sending in the paperwork. I'm doing every type of show that we have. I'm guesting on any type of show we have. I'm in it with you. Whatever you're doing, I'm doing. Right? Like, we are building a database for the 2024 draft of prospects. And last night, I was combing through prospects, all these different websites, looking at who do all the mock drafters think is going to get drafted. We're trying to create a top 100 skill position players of who people are going to get drafted, right? Who's going to get drafted. And then I was going through this list of all these guys that are going to get drafted, and then I was helping to create the list because it's like Matty Keywoom and Seth, and then a bunch of us creating this list, this database of who is going to get drafted. And so, because we need to start making sure we have player pages for all these guys, and we got to make sure we have everything we need. And that's just, one example. So let's see if I could look up, I was looking up, quarterbacks. I was looking up running backs, Donovan Edwards, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, and then Travion Henderson, Trey Benson, and Will Shipley. Those are some of the running backs you can expect to get drafted. It's not the greatest running back class. I can tell you that right now. I was checking out Brock Bowers. I was checking out Hudson Henry. I was checking out Jatavian Sanders. And then I was checking out some wide receivers, Brendan Rice, Brian Thomas, J. Michael Sturdivant. Johnny Wilson and many others. And speaking of Johnny Wilson, cool name, Jalen Polk. Thought that was a cool name. I saw the guy Johnny Wilson, Michael Wilson, suffering a setback. So my pickups, starter stream. You could say that I'm doing starter stream as punishment for my waiver wired. Right, the waiver wired show was like Ty Chandler, Michael Wilson, and it's like Ty Chandler's back to his RB2 spot for now. At least to start the game. Still love him as an upside flex play. And then Michael Wilson has a setback with his shoulder. So Michael Wilson gets the setback, and then Alexander Madison defeats the odds and actually plays the week after a concussion. So, I play the percentages. Yeah, I guys I like. I like guys like Alexander Madison, explosive running backs that can catch the ball. I like alpha wide receiver profiles, and didn't work out. So we probably had our worst waiver wired show of the year. And then so you could say that my penance is that I'm doing starter stream, that my family is somewhere right now. I think they're having a beautiful brunch somewhere. I just saw some pictures from my family's brunch. And what am I doing? I'm stuck doing fucking starter stream. So this Space Monkey Mafia writes that I just logged in late to the party. Would you start Pollard over Walker or Swift this week, especially if Rico Dowdle is out? Well, I wouldn't start him over Swift. I can tell you that. Swift has been the most unlucky player in the NFL, skill position player in the NFL. So I'm starting Swift. I am starting him, though, over Kenneth Walker. Pollard catches the ball. I don't love this matchup for Dak, and especially for Brandon Cooks. We talk about this is not the week to start Brandon Cooks. You're going to get tempted to point chase on Brandon Cooks. Oh, it's Carolina. Oh, Carolina's a bad team. Yeah, but they're a bad team where their defense is better than their offense. Whenever a defense is better than their offense, a bad team with a solid defense is the worst. No one should be out here trying to start passing game options against a defense, a bad team with a solid defense. That's the antithesis of upside. That's the opposite of a shootout. You're not going to get Brandon Cooks, the fantasy point upside you're looking for when you're thinking, oh, this is a bad team. This is a good start. Oh, yeah. No, it's a terrible, terrible idea. Pollard, though, Carolina gives up 7 points above the mean to opposing running backs. And that's just looking at our rankings. We have our projections up on Player Profile or go to the player rankings. We have dynasty rankings, seasonal rankings, weekly rankings, offensive line rankings, cornerback rankings. Our rankings are the best. We have the analytics team working with Billy Muzio and Theo to create the dynasty rankings, to create these weekly projections. That's why they're the best. It's close, right? It's close between Swift, Pollard, and Walker. We have them in a range of like RB10 to RB18. They're all in that range. They're all in the high-end RB2 range. But Swift against Kansas City, that has shootout potential. So Swift has the higher median projection. So here's where it gets interesting. If Dowdle is ruled out, then Pollard's median projection will probably rise above Swift. But in no search, even if I'm down, even if I'm a favorite, let's say, right? Of course, if you're down, but let's say I'm a favorite. Let's say that I'm the favorite by 10 points. My projection this week is 132 fantasy points. My opponent's projection is 122 fantasy points. And our median projection has Pollard, right? A slight, like one notch above Swift. Right? Well, guess what? Part of the equation is upside. That's why if you go to our DFS Dominator, and those of you that have our all-in package, you can go to the DFS Dominator, check out the upside rating, and then you can go to the player rankings and see where we have the median projection. The upside ranking is going to dominate for Swift. because there's just not a lot of points that are going to be scored, period. The shootout potential for Carolina, Dallas is not high. The shootout potential for Kansas City, Philadelphia is very high. And DeAndre Swift, if it's a shootout, he's going to be heavily used. And there's no Dallas Goedert this week. So no Goedert, shootout game environment. This is why we like Pacheco this week. This is why we like Swift this week. We have Swift and Pacheco as top 12 running back options this week, because we don't look at total fantasy points or fantasy points per game. We look at the high-value touches, and we do our projections based on where these guys are getting their touches on the football field and what kind of efficiency they're delivering on a per-touch basis, and then we extrapolate. That's why the expected fantasy points per game for DeAndre Swift is like many points higher than his actual fantasy points, because he's been stopped at the 1-yard line over and over and over and over again. So the answer is clearly Swift. That one's not even that close, because the median projection's close and the upside is so much higher for Swift. Herbert or Goff? The fact that this is a question is hilarious. I don't love Herbert this week. Herbert's not a top 5 option. I'd rather start, let's say, CJ Stroud. Okay. Also, remember, Herbert has very few options. Guyton is out. So I know at some point there's going to be a question about Quentin Johnston. I prepared my body for Quentin Johnston questions. And Keenan Allen also banged up, not 100%. No Guyton. And so they're down to Darius Davis and other street free agents. If there was ever a time to play Quentin Johnston, it is now. I mean, this is hilarious. I mean, think about what the world is doing to me, right? The world's like, hey, Podfather, you don't like Calvin Ridley, so we're going to make sure that the week 1 matchup is against the Colts, and he's going to melt faces, and you're going to look like a fool, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, thanks, world. Thanks, universe. Thanks. And then you don't like Quentin Johnston, and you think he's going to underperform this year. Okay, here's what we're going to do. The universe is going to conspire against you. We're going to send Mike Williams to IR near the beginning of the season, close to the beginning of the season, a couple weeks in. Then we're going to delay Guyton coming back and then immediately put him back on the injured list. We're going to have Keenan Allen questionable. Oh, and don't forget, we're gonna give Josh Palmer a knee injury, and we're gonna give Justin Herbert no choice. We might even injure Donald Parham, right? And we're going to give Justin Herbert no choice but to feed Quentin Johnston. We are going to fuck the Podfather. That is what we're going to do. It's the Podfather curse. And then you look up, and even in that kind of tailwind, even with that kind of help, when I look at our projections, I have to keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling to try to find Mr. Quentin Johnston. We're down in the Darius Slayton, Darnell Mooney, Jonathan Mingo zone. The fortunate thing, the thing that might save me this week is that it is the Green Bay secondary. They don't give up many fantasy points. They close to -8 fantasy points per game below the mean to opposing wide receivers. But the implied Vegas point total, unfortunately, is 23.5 for the Chargers. They're going to score points. Some of those are going to go to Quentin Johnston. But the bottom line is, as much as the universe is conspiring against me, we're still going to be projecting Rashee Rice and Alan Lazard and, my man Jaden Reed still will have a higher projection no matter what than Quentin Johnston this week, but I'm playing him, right? Anytime a guy is like top 50, you're going to have to consider playing him. And he also has upside. Like, sure, the universe is conspiring against me. Have I been right as rain that he's not good at all? Yes. Are there bad receivers like Travis Fulgham that have wide receiver 1 performances? Yes. So all these things can be true. Player can be bad and still put up a wide receiver 1 performance. That's all implied. I think N'Keal Harry has at least one wide receiver 1 performance in his life, in his career. I believe so. We'll have to see. Josh Doxson does. Laquan Treadwell does. A lot of massive busts have wide receiver 1 weeks. If there was going to be one, everything is lining up with the exception of the Green Bay defense for Quentin Johnston this week. And I'm a realist. I'm here to win fantasy matchups. And I'm here to give good advice. And if it makes sense, given the upside, to play a Quentin Johnston over a, Wan'Dale Robinson, over an Allen Lazard, over a Jonathan Mingo, I say go for it. Right? I say go for it. Romeo Doubs is not good. Quentin Johnston, also not good. Who's in a better situation? Well, Doubs is a lot more target competition, and they're projected to score fewer points. So just go Quentin Johnston. I'm here to say, start Quentin Johnston. Jacoby Myers. That's actually a shootout game environment. I think that's where we start to ask the question. Jacoby Myers, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I still rather start those guys. Brandon Cooks. That's the decision point. Brandon Cooks versus Quentin Johnston. Eek! I think I'm starting Quentin. I hate to say it, but the game environment is much better for Quentin Johnston than Brandon Cooks, even though Brandon Cooks is a phenomenal receiver. Brandon Cooks is awesome. Brandon Cooks has how many 1,000-yard seasons on his resume? Brandon Cooks has an infinite number of more 1,000-yard seasons on his resume than Quentin Johnston ever will, because Quentin Johnston will never have one. And so even if Brandon Cooks, let's count them up. Let's count up. Brandon Cooks has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1,000-yard seasons. So that's going to be 6 more than Quentin Johnston ever has, ever. And yet this week, in a flex position, in a wide receiver 3 position, I'm going to go Quentin Johnston. I just want everyone, this is why I've been inoculated from take lock. I got the injection in my arm, and I can never get take lock again. The question was Herbert or Goff. The question from Roy Brado on Facebook was, who should I start between Herbert and Goff? And I've literally refused to answer and just, went on a complete tangent about Quentin Johnston. I was like, man, I don't really want to talk about Herbert and Goff, but I want to talk about Quentin Johnston. Can we talk about Quentin Johnston, please? And so the answer is Herbert, for all the reasons why. I just laid it all out, why it's got to be Herbert. But Goff, I mean, we're usually going to be a little bit behind consensus on a guy like Goff, because he's just not a runner. And so if I'm looking at our projections, shootout potential, not great because of Tyson Bagent. See, if it would be a conversation, this is just, I love talking about these dynamics with starter sit decisions. It would be a conversation. If Justin Fields were the quarterback, it would be a conversation. But it's often the quarterback across the field drives your upside, drives your fantasy production. So, Justin Fields actually is playing, as it turns out. So, wait a second. Wait, is he playing? Now I thought I read the news. What? Oh no. Why? What? What's happening? Oh my God. Okay. Who is starting? He will play against Detroit. It did happen. They are playing him. I was wondering why Darnell Mooney was projected so high. I thought I read all the news. When did this come out? Oh, this news came out 2 days ago. Oh, that's why. That's interesting. I disagree with our projections. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. I don't it's so close. So here's the thing. This is okay. A couple levels of trickery here. Okay? Couple levels of trickery. I thought Justin Fields was going to play, but then I didn't see any news he was going to play. Actually the news was from Friday, and I must not have seen it. And then what happened was, just to take you behind the scenes, what happened is, having not read the news that he's going to play, just having missed it, but assuming he would play, where we had Goff projected told me Fields isn't playing. Like, where we have Goff projected, I think, is wrong. And so I want to apologize to everybody. I don't think it can be right that you would have Goff at quarterback 15. I know we are typically low on him most weeks, but I don't think that that's possibly correct because they have an implied point total of 28, and Justin Fields is playing. So, and the issue is, though, when you look at the projections, the difference between Goff and Herbert is 1 fantasy point. 1 fantasy point separates QB7 from QB15. So that's why there's this cluster of quarterbacks, and it's stratified from Herbert down to Goff. Okay, so I apologize to Bordeaux. When I first saw our rankings and saw that we have Herbert at QB7 and Goff at QB15, I was like, well, this isn't even a question, right? This is a dumb question. Admittedly, Roy, I thought it was a dumb question. Then, I looked at where we had Goff. It's like QB15. That Fields can't be playing. I'm assuming Fields isn't playing. And then I looked and I was like, no, Fields is playing. Of course, I thought he was playing. He is playing. Okay. So why is he QB15? Because the guy ahead of him is 18.2 fantasy points. The guy ahead of him is 18.3 fantasy points. The guy ahead of him is also 18.3 fantasy points. Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, 18.5 fantasy points. So they're all in this very narrow band of stratification, which is then why you need to go to the upside finder. And so when you go to the upside finder and you see, okay, the guy that's chasing the highest point total, who has more implied points than Jared Goff this week? Only Tua. Right? Tua, 29.25 implied points. The next is Goff at 28.25, and then no one else is even close. So in this situation, because the guy across from Herbert is actually Jordan Love, who is awful, this is interesting. This officially became a good question, and I know everyone else is like, yes, we know all this. I'm so glad you had to talk about Quentin Johnston, and it took you 10 minutes to answer a question that you initially got wrong. Oh. The Packers give up 4 points below the mean to opposing quarterbacks, which is a lot. They're 31st in the league in fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks, so they don't give up any fantasy points to opposing. I mean, they're the way two ways to look at it. The Packers are the second most stingy defense on opposing quarterbacks. And with Goff, the Bears are +4, and they give up a lot of points to opposing quarterbacks. How much has Herbert been rushing this year? Again, no Guyton, I think, also affects Herbert. Herbert has only 114 rushing yards in the season, but he does have 3 rushing touchdowns. I believe we are over-projecting Herbert this week and under-projecting Goff. It's so close because of the point totals are close. It's just the stratification is random. Herbert's been good. Herbert on the season is the QB4 in fantasy. Like, he's been great this year. Okay? He's put up 21.2 fantasy points per game. Goff, not. Right? So I understand now how the projections are created. This is assuming that Fields plays. this is putting all this into account. But actually, Jared Goff is only putting up 18.3 fantasy points per game on the year. That's 13th among quarterbacks. That's not even that great. Goff has been worse than most people think. Most people think he's been, prolific this year. He's been good, not great. Herbert's been better than most people think. QB4 versus QB12. But given this game situation, I think this is actually a great question. So again, I apologize to Roy Bordeaux. This turns out to be an incredibly difficult decision and one that's super interesting to me. And I take it all back. Our projections are correct. Everything is right. I just didn't appreciate how close the QB7 and the QB15 could possibly be. And because the upside of the 28 implied points in a shootout with Fields on the other side, if Fields is good, if we're getting good Fields this week, then Goff could go nuclear. But it's up to Fields. You see, Fields is going to drive this. But I'm going to put it in Fields' hands, right? And then the question becomes, at what point would you play Goff over Dak because of the Carolina problem? Because Dak has a Bryce Young problem, right? This is where it becomes interesting. Tua has an Aiden O'Connell problem, right? That's where it becomes interesting. At what point, how far do you go chasing the dragon of the big implied point total, the shootout game environment for Jared Goff? Fuck it, I'm going Goff over all those guys. I'm all about Goff this week. Again, the median projection, we now understand where it's coming from and why it is what it is. But we have a healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we have a Jahmyr Gibbs, the electric Jahmyr Gibbs. We have the Chicago Bears defense. This is why you can't make start-sit decisions based on median projections. Why you have to factor in upside projections, but also have to tune into shows like Starter Stream. And if you have the patience to sit through someone thinking through something for 20 minutes and wasting everybody's time, but then finally understanding what needs to be done, you're going to come up with Goff here. You're welcome, Roy. Roy, most of the show is devoted to helping Roy. So now basically we've done a whole show on how do we help Roy Bordeaux make a quarterback start decision. And then watch Herbert outproduce Goff. Senior football, if he wasn't so complimentary, I wouldn't answer this question because it's a pick two situation. Jahmyr Gibbs, Achane, Rachaad White, Breece Hall. We talked about this earlier, right? I knew there's going to be people that really want to start Achane, and I get it, but you're starting Rachaad White. Rachaad White against San Francisco, this is median projection world. Breece Hall against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense is not what we thought it was, okay? So you're starting Rachaad White just based on his median projection is like at least a point more than the other guys. And Rachaad White's been a machine. You're penciling him into your RB1. Shut up about benching Rachaad White. You want to bench Rachaad White? Shut up. Shut up. Don't do it. Then the question is, we're back into this world where we have a median projection versus an upside projection. Gibbs versus Hall. Hall technically has a higher median projection. I'm starting Gibbs for all the same reasons. See, this was a productive exercise. Fully understanding why we love Goff this week is also helping us start Gibbs over Hall. So that's the answer. It's Gibbs and Rachaad White, senior football. Robert Page. Robert Page, really? Robert Page must be a Led Zeppelin fan. Everyone that knows music must know that Robert Page is a Led Zeppelin fan. And you all know why. You can put it in the chat if you know why. Howell or Kyler Murray? Chasing the ceiling play. Duh. The ceiling play is Murray. Why? Because there's not even 40 points supposed to be scored in this Giants-Washington game. This is the last week I'm starting Sam Howell. This is a bad week for Howell against the Giants. Do not start him against the Giants. This is bad. You want Howell in a game environment where they have to throw the ball This is a Brian Robinson game. It's not a Sam Howell game this week. This is Brian Robinson week, not Sam Howell week. I'll say it one more time. The plan is for Dottle to be active. Good. I don't care. I still want Pollard this week. They're not going to play Dottle as much because he's not 100%. Ford or Montgomery? I think you all know where I'm going now, right? So Ford has a quarterback downgrade. Their offense is going to be less efficient. And Montgomery is in a shootout game environment. So, wow. Okay. Us going through this exercise together and learning why we love Goff over almost everybody this week. Median projection be damned. Right? I was like, oh. Wait, is Fields not starting? No, Fields is starting. Has let us know we're starting Gibbs. We're starting Montgomery. Stroud or Josh Allen? I can't believe that's a question. I mean, can we just take a moment to appreciate that that's a question? Stroud versus Josh Allen. It is the Jets. Josh Allen is the Jets. Stroud has Arizona. The median projections are only a point away. I'm going Stroud! I'm going Stroud! Chase the dragon! I'm going Stroud all the way. It's possible Allen puts up a dud performance against the Jets. I don't see it. Stroud against Arizona, I don't see a dud performance. I don't see it. Oh, wow, this is great. Noah Brown or Rico Dottle? I think Noah Brown's out. I don't know what the hell that is. Why even ask that question? Fire up Achane overhaul. See, I knew it to start the show. I knew these would be the questions. I knew it. And this is an example where I'm going Hall. I'm going Hall over Achane. Hall has the explosive runs too. It's not like he can't do explosive runs. Hall can do explosive runs. Absolutely. I knew it. I knew it. Most of my answers to these questions are going to be not Achane. Achane's been involved in a lot of these questions, and almost every time I'm saying not Achane. I knew it. Stroud or Hurts? Oh my. Hurts. Shootout. Now I know that somehow this is amazing. Can we just take a moment to admire the Kansas City defense? That Mahomes is on the other side fueling shootouts, and yet the Kansas City defense allows 3.7 points below the mean to opposing quarterbacks. Think about how good their defense must be if so many teams are in comeback mode and the quarterbacks still can't do shit. Think about that. It's amazing. But I'm going Hurts. Because yes, the defense is tough, but I want Hurts against Mahomes. That's so much better than Hurts. See, this is why. Okay, Allen technically by 0.1 points has a higher median projection than Jalen Hurts. However, the upside projection for Hurts higher. Stroud or Hurts? Hurts. Brandon Cooks or Calvin Ridley? Oh, man. Oh, whoops. Oh, no. In my Quentin Johnston / Jared Goff homily, about 100 starter stream questions came in. We're not going to get to all your starter stream questions. I'm going to do my best. Okay? I swear I'll do my best. We're going to go rapid fire. I think we've answered a lot of the tough questions, the Achane questions, start all your Lions. We've started to figure things out together. Darrell Henderson or Pacheco? Oh, my God. Pacheco for all the reasons we just talked about. It doesn't matter as much that it's the Eagles. There's going to be a shootout game environment, and you want to chase that shit. Jerome Ford or Deontay Johnson? Oh, Jerome Ford or Deontay Johnson? That's interesting. I think Jerome Ford, but I'm going to check the rankings. We're actually going to go straight to, sometimes you have to go straight to the rankings and figure it out. And by the way, there was a question about Ridley that I didn't get to, unfortunately, because then I got lost. I was like, wait a second, how far Cooks or Ridley? right? I'm like, I think I'm going to go Ridley there. I I'm not starting Cooks against Carolina. I'm not doing it. So that's the answer there. We're going Ridley. I can't believe I'm saying starting out Calvin Ridley, but I am in this particular situation. And then I lost where I was. I was Jerome Ford or Deontay Johnson. Now I'm skipping around, which is always a mistake. It's always a mistake. Jerome Ford versus Deontay Johnson. We're going Deontay Johnson. And I don't care. It's so close. I mean, do whatever you want there. Deontay in PPR, Jerome Ford in half PPR. It's so close. McBride or Kincaid with Michael Wilson out. I'm going to McBride. Just ride McBride. You're not doing anything but no one other than McBride when you have key guys out. Madison over Warren. Yes, you're going Madison over Warren, but you're hating your life. You're hating every second of it because it is the Cleveland defense, and then so Warren's upside is capped, but you're hating your life. Kyler Murray or Brock Purdy, chase the upside. Brock Purdy's supposed to be in a blowout. Kyler Murray could be in a shootout. I prefer shootouts to blowouts every single time. Addison, Kupp, Pickens, Swift, Laporta, pick 3. Fuck you. I'm not doing it. I'm not picking 3. Go to hell. Go to some other starter stream show. I'm here to pick between 2 guys, maybe pick 2, but give me 3. I'll get. How about this? How about I give you nothing? How about we start none of them? How about fuck you? How about that? Watson or Reed, half PPR. That's a tough one, right? I think we're going Reed. We're riding Reed. Reed is the true wide receiver 1. Watson's not himself. He's not 100%. Watson must prove himself. Until then, go Reed. Flex, Derrick Henry, Nico Collins, or Marquise Brown. Can you believe this is a conversation? Can you believe we're even having this conversation about Derrick Henry at this point? How funny is that? That's a conversation. Answer's Derrick Henry. Come on now. Come on, Derrick Henry. Pollard over Ken Walker or Swift? No, we're going Swift. We talked about that. We're going Swift, guys. We're going Swift. Come on. Let's go. Stroud or Tua? And the guy says, and this is good. Ooh, this is good. Thank you, Jay. I like this. Jay's cool. Jay's a cool guy. Just Jay. I like that. He has Tyreek, if that helps. Yes, it does help. That means you're going Tua. That's how you stack. If you stack him, if you got him, dude. Max out your upside. Stack him if you got him. Purdy or Stafford? Ooh, good one, Purdy. I don't love the game situation for Purdy. I love the matchup for Stafford, but it's still Purdy. He has the weapons. Stafford has weapons too, but Purdy, I'm just gonna go in that particular situation. Stafford doesn't give you the upside of some of these other shootout game environments potentially do. Purdy has that nice floor where you know they're gonna score a bunch of points. They have 26.5 implied points. A lot of those going to go to Purdy. I don't think you're gaining anything by going Stafford. I think just go Purdy and not overthink that one, right? Warren or White? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Warren or White? Wait, is Najee Harris out? Did I miss something? Uh-oh. Oh, see, I didn't go back far enough. Maybe guys are out and I didn't know they were out. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. The Steelers have named Jaylen Warren as the starting running back on November 14th. Whoa. Whoa, I take it back. You're starting Warren. Madison or Warren? No, you're not starting Madison over Warren. Nicky Banks? I'm wrong. I thought I did a good job. I looked at the news for days. I just didn't go back to last week, early last week. Wow, Warren. Okay, I have a lot going on. All right, I have a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of news items I miss. Okay, I'm here to teach you how to fish, not to exactly show you where all the fish are in the lake. Okay, so excuse me if I don't know everything about the news of what's happening. That's embarrassing. I just don't follow the news that closely. That's embarrassing that I didn't know Jaylen Warren's a starting running back over Najee Harris. Wow. Thank God the Steelers. This means the NFL is a real meritocracy. More and more and more every year, it's becoming more of a meritocracy. Everyone knows Jaylen Warren's better. He has more juice. Everyone can see it every week. This is great. Derrick Henry or Jerome Ford? Dude, what? Derrick Henry. Come on. Come on, I can't believe these are questions. Gibbs or Achane? Gibbs. We talked about that earlier. McBride or Laporta? Ooh, that's a good question. See, I was going to say McBride always, but McBride, Laporta, that's a good problem to have for this guy, right? McBride or Laporta. Oh, we have them adjacent in the rankings. Implied points go to Laporta. It's Laporta. It's got to be Laporta. Yes, I do know that Burrow is injured. Yes, I'm at least aware of that. I'm aware. Okay. I knew the touches were trending towards Warren. I didn't know that the Steelers actually came out and named him the starter. That's great news. Yes, Robert Page is a Led Zeppelin fan because Robert Plant is the lead singer and Jimmy Page is the lead guitarist. Thank you, chat. You guys know you guys know your music. It's great stuff. Purdy or Howell? Don't start Howell this week. This is not a Howell week. This is a Brian Robinson week. It's all about Purdy. Start 2 of these guys and you list 7 people. Get out of here. Shut up. McKinnon or Gainwell to stash? Gainwell. Gainwell's the best stash in all of fantasy. Darrell Henderson or Adam Thielen? Darrell Henderson. I prefer Darrell Henderson. I feel bad for Adam Thielen. Well, let's see what our flex tab says. Let's just make sure. Sometimes I like to make sure. Darrell Henderson. Uh-oh. I could be disagreeing with the flex tab. Oh, no. Am I? Henderson. Thielen. Fuck. I take it back. It's Thielen. Yeah, it makes sense. For all the reasons why we're not starting Brandon Cooks, we're starting Adam Thielen. I can't believe it. I just can't believe Adam Thielen. I always forget how good he's been this year. And they're going to be in comeback mode. That's why you're going to start an Adam Thielen. You're starting Adam Thielen this week. Everybody, you're starting Adam Thielen over Puka Nacua. You're starting Adam Thielen over DeAndre Hopkins. You're starting Adam Thielen over Tyler Lockett. You're starting Adam Thielen over Calvin Ridley, over Brandon Ayuk. It sounds crazy, but you are starting Adam Thielen over all those guys. I can't believe it. I'm also looking for half PPR. I thought maybe half PPR, that was the difference. No. PPR, clearly Thielen. Even half PPR, it's Thielen. Holy shit. Yep. Oh, man. Achane or McBride? Achane. I think. I'm pretty sure. Achane. Pretty sure. I think. Almost sure. Not 100% sure. I'm sure. It's Achane. We're overtime now. Ty Chandler, Jaden Reed. Got to go Jaden Reed there. Ty Chandler is not the starter. Jaden Reed has real upside in PPR. Whew. Ty Chandler, Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren's named the starter. Okay, I don't feel so bad anymore. Jalen Warren was named the starter. Ty Chandler. Okay. Let's think about this. It is Cleveland. Okay, so I was dismissive of Chandler. I was dismissive of Warren initially because it was Cleveland. And it was going to be a game dragged into the mud. Man, maybe my better instinct. See, this is where this is good starter stream theory. Okay, because I checked the news for the last 3 days. I didn't go back beyond that, and so I missed a few things. But I could be better off. Sometimes too much information creates decision fatigue and information overload. You end up overthinking decisions. My initial reflex answer to a lot of these questions was, this game is gross. This situation is gross. I hate everything about what I'm seeing. Jaylen Warren going up against the Browns defense. Okay? And the problem is the Browns offense now has a rookie quarterback. So the game total is probably not even is unlikely to be hit. So the game total is 34.5. Okay? So not knowing all the news for the week, but knowing the fundamentals of the game, I was dismissive of Warren 10 minutes ago. Then I keep seeing all these Warren questions, and I'm like, there must be a news item I missed. Sure enough, the Steelers named him the starter officially, finally. That does matter. The naming of, even though the guy has been outplaying Harris, it still matters that it's going to go from like 55-45 Harris to 55-45 Warren. That matters. Okay? But does that override just how putrid? I mean, a 34.5 game total is like 1945 NFL. Well, that was still World War II. 1946 NFL, right? So maybe all our better instincts are wrong. That maybe our zeal to play Jaylen Warren, we've had Jaylen Warren, right? And we haven't been playing him because he's not starting, but we've been seeing him play well, and there's been a handful of performances that would have helped us, but he was on the bench, and we're eager to start him. I mean, we were smart enough to pick him up, right? This is so cool. I mean, my case for having Jaylen Warren on one of my top handcuffs all year was that he's just a better player than Harris, and for them to name him the starter is so exciting. And last week, he put up 19 fantasy points. The week before that, 14 fantasy points. He got the 50% snap share last week. It could be 60% this week. But the game environment is so bad, this could be the ultimate trap. Jaylen Warren feels like the ultimate trap running back, given that the defense is stout and the Browns cannot score points and Kenny Pickett can't throw. So you're going to get some nice runs from Jaylen Warren, but is he going to score a touchdown? I don't know. Now look at Ty Chandler. Look at these decisions. Chandler and Madison. Those have been the questions. Chandler or Harris. No, Chandler or Warren. Madison or Warren. And then as soon as the Steelers name Warren the starter, we're like, it's got to be Warren, it's got to be Warren, it's got to be Warren. But then you got to think, wait a second. Look at this Minnesota game has some real potential because Dobbs has been good, right? And you know that Minnesota's defense is gonna force the Vikings. The Broncos have been on a winning streak. The game total is only 42 though. You see, it's at Denver. It's at Denver. So again, we've had some difficult decisions to make this year. This is a tricky one. It's at Denver and the total is only 42. Is there enough upside? Is there enough upside with Ty Chandler or Alexander Madison? They're going to split 50-50 to play Warren over those guys. Is there enough? Is there to play Madison or Chandler over Warren? This is one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I don't really care, but I will say there is just this Denver matchup in Denver may be a fake soft matchup. It may not offer what you think it's going to offer or we think it's going to offer for Chandler, just because, early in the season, running backs were running all over, and including the Dolphins defense. So the Dolphins running game inflated some of these, rush yards and rushing fantasy points against numbers for Denver. Lately, Denver's been better. Their defense has been better. Vegas clearly doesn't think there's going to be that many more points scored in Denver than there are going to be in this Cleveland-Pittsburgh game. Warren's the starter. He's been delivering the last 2 weeks. Pittsburgh probably going to win this game. So if they have a lead, they're talking a positive game script, even if it's against Cleveland, positive game script later in the game. We're validating the Jaylen Warren pick. If you have questions about whether or not you should be starting Jared Goff or any Lions, I say start your Lions. Okay? And if you have any questions about whether you should be starting Jaylen Warren, I say start Jaylen Warren.